Pixel Sift is proudly supported by the Murdoch University School of Arts. Do you want to learn how to make your own Twitch channel or podcast and outclass the competition? Well, the skills you learn in a creative degree in games, sound, film or journalism will put you in a class of your own. Have a look at murdoch.edu.au/arts to learn more about what they've got on offer. That's murdoch.edu.au/arts, or you can search Murdoch University for more information. Murdoch University School of Arts, proudly supporting Pixel Sift. Pixel Sift. Yes. Hello and welcome to Pixel Sift, the show dedicated to the indie games from around Australia and the world. My name is Scott, and joining me tonight is my co-host Gianni. How are you going, mate?
I am going fantastic, and I'm glad that my name is written there so that I know who I am.
Well, it was actually written as another name, but, the skills that I have mean that,
Getting there.
we just rage on through. But anyway, tonight we have Jay Armstrong joining us in the studio. Well, on the phone anyway, to tell us more about Massive Monster's new game, Never Give Up. Thanks for joining us, Jay.
Thanks so much for having me. Second time back on the show, and I'm excited. It's going to be even better this time. So good to be here.
Big things.
50 episodes ago. No, it was 72 was the last episode we had you on. So
wow, things have
quite
changed.
a while ago. Seems like just yesterday. First off today, we're going to have a look into the wild world and the wide world of loot boxes, possibly for the last time as we know them, because it's due to a new stance from Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, and changing ideas around the way that we can make money out of games.
That's it. Let's get started.
You're listening to Pixel Sift.
Yes, so the idea of loot boxes, they're not new. They've been around for a fair while, and they actually existed in forms before they actually were in games. They used to be called gacha devices, or that's how they used to be described in the old style. But now they're known as loot boxes, and the gacha machines are obviously like those little put in a coin, get a little, circular little ball thing, and inside there's a toy. So it's probably something.
You lost me there. Oh, okay.
Yeah, do you know gachapons they're called?
Right.
You used to have them in little arcades, and people would put in $1 and you'd hope to get the character you want, and then it would always just be something trash. But that's what that design thing is called, gacha mechanics. So it's probably something you're pretty well versed with. You might be completely sick of it as well. Well, salvation might be just around the corner, because some of the major players in gaming, namely Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, have announced some new initiatives that would require publishers to disclose the drop rates of all the rewards in their loot boxes. Is this a good move? Well, it kind of depends on your current opinions. The UK's House of Commons had an inquiry into loot boxes. Brendan O'Hara, who's an MP, asked if loot boxes were ethical, and EA's Vice President of Legal and Government Affairs took issue with the term itself and said, we don't call them loot boxes, we look at them as surprise mechanics. Jay, what do you think about surprise mechanics?
I think this is a good move. I think it's something that needs to be dealt with. I think it's hard not to see surprise mechanics as kind of picking on vulnerable people and like encouraging misspending, or people maybe kids have their parents' wallet on file and they're sort of buying this stuff, and it's not always that informed an opinion. So I think that this is a great move. I think interestingly, like you're saying, it's been around for a while. It's a very contentious topic in sort of retail premium games for console and PC, but on say iOS or Android, it's just how people make money, and there's no question about it at all. So I think it's a really interesting topic.
It is fascinating, because I guess you can compare the sort of mobile games or even the free-to-play games which use this sort of loot box or gacha style thing to make money, basically, because you don't pay for the game initially, you are paying for it through a service. But it's interesting to see some free-to-play games are now moving towards this sort of like almost like a season pass. That's kind of the way to describe it. Fortnite, for example, is one that has kind of had an interesting sort of path with this. They brought out a battle pass which lasts for about 10 weeks or so. During that time, exactly what you can earn in that particular space of time, but you kind of have to work towards a goal. And I think it's kind of interesting to see as people kind of move their games towards this particular model. Do you think that that's a better way to do it, Jay?
Yeah, certainly. I think the move for the legislation is to kind of make this a lot more transparent, and the call is to have this information accessible to players. But I guess the issue is, how is that done, and is it done in a way where it's very clear to people that it is a huge risk that you're taking, or how your likelihood, your percentage to win, basically. So I think it could be something that's hidden away in like a kind of user's terms and service, or like maybe it's not something that's going to be easy to find for people who kind of suffer under these mechanics. So it'd be really interesting to see how it pans out. But I definitely like the idea of the season pass more than just kind of the gachapons.
Scott, it all started to change pretty recently, didn't it?
Yeah, it all seems to have happened pretty quickly. I mean, especially if you've been following the show, you know that we have been following the loot box kind of era, as I called it today, because I feel like that it is kind of coming to a changing point where it won't be the loot boxes of old that we've kind of gotten used to. And to be honest, like, there is no black and white in as regards to this. There have been people that have done the loot box system pretty well, and there's people that have done it horrendously, and the same can be said for the battle pass already, to be honest. I mean, let's look at the recent outcry from the Apex Legends community. I think this is a great move. Sorry?
What happened with Apex Legends?
Basically, they've had their new event, Crown something, last week.
Crown,
yeah. And there was a lot of backlash on the internet, on Reddit, and then there was a whole...
backlash on Reddit?
Yeah. Well, because you know how Reddit are. But then also the developers, just a little jump in there. There is a pretty active Reddit subreddit of Apex Legends, and quite often the developers or Respawn will jump in and make some comments, and generally they're great. It's really good input. It's nice to have them right there in the community. But this time one of them had a little bit of a go at somebody, and it all kind of went downhill from there.
The exact quote, if you're wondering, so Drew McCoy, who was on the subreddit, said, he made a comment about the event because people were kind of quite annoyed with it. There was a rare skin in it that they put a new mechanic in that you had to acquire $237 US
worth, yeah, basically. Yeah.
Premium currency to unlock. And Drew McCoy said, look, we were not going to engage with people with temper tantrums. He said he was trying to explain why the developers were making a change in the face of player anger while signaling that the expressions of angers from player wouldn't always trigger a change. He added that he had been in the industry long enough to remember when players weren't complete asshats to developers, and it was pretty neat. So that's in reporting from Keita Jackson over at Kotaku, who said they kind of...
But then somebody commented on it again, like basically negatively, and he's like, I think I found the dickhead.
Yeah.
So, you know, it was like he doubled down, and it kind of went all bad from there. I follow that subreddit pretty heavily as well, so it was a lot for me. And I love Apex Legends as well, for all its issues.
Vince Sapella, who is one of the leads at Respawn, actually had to come in and apologize because of that.
Yep.
But we asked the question of you on Discord, on the Pixel Sift Discord, and on Facebook as well. Some of you have commented as well. Blue Monkey on Discord says, I reckon loot boxes are only good in a game with an economy, such as TF2, Team Fortress 2, CSGO, Counter-Strike. But games where it's untradeable and there's no return for how much you place into is gambling an item. At least with a battle pass, you can grind for all your items as well. And on the Pixel Sift Discord, you should really do yourself a favor and have a look at this if you get the chance, pixelsift.com.au/Discord. Ultima Odin and Delicious Orange had a super comprehensive discussion there, saying Delicious Orange says they don't reckon that loot boxes are going away. Rather, the battle pass or season pass is that extra layer on top for monetization. Ultima Odin says that they reckon loot box odds should have been disclosed from the start. Cosmetic-only loot boxes don't feel as bad as boxes that hold better gameplay items. And they also talk about hidden mechanics like pity timers, which actually up your odds if you hadn't had a good item for a while. But it's definitely super comprehensive, and do yourself a favor and check that out at pixelsift.com.au/Discord. Jay, have you ever been tempted to add a loot box or a season pass to any of the games that you've worked on?
Every game I've worked on, I've put in loot boxes, but had to remove them because of player backlash. So that's kind of it's a struggle. No, the type of game we make is is much kind of smaller. We don't have economies in them. We just want to be upfront. We're kind of, the way we do things is kind of, you spend your money, here's your game. I hope you enjoy it. And that's it's as simple as that with Massive Monsters. So not yet, but maybe one day.
And that shiny dollar is sitting there.
Yeah. I don't know how long, I can hold out before I give in and go for it.
What about if you brought your games over to a different platform? Because did the Adventure Pals move over to iPad eventually, or was it available on mobile?
It's not been available, but just simply because the amount of controls we had, it just kind of wasn't possible, because we used the whole of the gamepad, and trying to get that onto a touch screen just didn't really work. But yeah, I mean, I think when you do move to a different platform and there is pressure, so like with mobile and stuff like that, to give it away for free or for just a couple of bucks, then you do kind of have that pressure to add in extra ways of making money. And there are ways to do it where you're not, kind of pay to win. You can avoid that. And there are some games that not being an arse hat as well. That's kind of something I try to do, but I really struggle with.
What are some of the good examples you've seen, one that you think that has actually worked out pretty well?
So it's just a lot of games. One of the games I'm thinking about is the Kingdom Rush series. So they have stuff in there that you can pay for, and I've happily bought kind of heroes and things like that because you can get them anyway, and it's all just kind of done very honestly and open. And here's some cool other features. You don't need them, but they are here. And when you love the game, you don't mind giving a few extra bucks to the developers for a bit more content. I think that's completely fine. I think the problem comes when you can't actually win without spending money, and you've already spent $60 on the game in the first place.
I think you've absolutely nailed it there. Like consumers aren't generally unreasonable. If you've paid $60 for a game, it is unreasonable to continue to ask them for more money, especially if you have to spend $240 to get all the content that is available to you. But if you get the game for free, say again with Apex Legends, and you haven't paid anything for it, and you pay say $10 for a battle pass, if that enables you to be able to get everything possibly that's available, that's more than fair. But it really just comes down to fairness. Like, people don't like to be taken advantage of, even if it is just over, $10, $15 or whatever.
I think it's really interesting. There's some games that have kind of had loot boxes and have gotten rid of them. Rocket League is probably the one that's most notable recently. And there's actually
that's a big deal.
That's a premium game, and it had a loot box sort of mechanic in it, a random crates. They're getting rid of it. They're going in the favor of sort of an ongoing season pass, battle pass sort of model now. But there's actually a YouTube creator called John Sandman who's made his YouTube career out of opening loot boxes, and he's just like, well, writing's on the wall, better go find a real job.
He's pretty great. Yeah, but he's funny about it though, and he's been really good about it. For someone who basically is affected the most out of this, he's been really good about it. He's like, well, if I can't survive after this, then I'm a pretty shit YouTuber then, isn't it? It's like, that's a really good stance to have.
I might leave you with a few more comments from people who chimed in on all the social platforms. Alex on Facebook says that he'd be happy to trade loot boxes for a season pass. He says, definitely Fortnite's model of monetization is still the best out there. A season pass tells you that if you try hard enough, you'll get what you want. A loot box tells you maybe. Probably not, though. Not to mention this, you buy exactly what you want straight away. It's easily the most consumer-friendly model. And Luke on Facebook says, season passes are definitely the new hotness. I think in general, game companies have realized that. First, it's more of a fixed source of income. It doesn't fluctuate as much due to the fact that people purchase a season pass once and at a higher price than a single cosmetic. And secondly, and more crucially, Luke says, it's an investment in time as well as money that keeps players attracted to stay in the game's ecosystem for longer. So that boosts the overall game population, social media presence, and exposes them longer to other revenue models which may exist in game addition to the pass. That's a really good point. Vicary says, if I'm being honest, I hate, this is on Discord, says, if I'm being honest, I hate the idea of being able to buy things in game with real money, but I also hate being paywalled with a season pass. Both result in people facing a gamble of if the season pass or loot box purchase was worth it, and for whom the purchase turns out to not be worth it, they're left with a sour feeling in their mouth. And Retro Addict agrees with Vicary there. So there we go.
Yeah, I'll just add in another comment from Luke from Facebook, just because it just echoed how I felt it really well. He said, to be fair, it's never been about one method in entirety over the other. It's about the individual implementations of them. We've seen loads of crappy examples of loot box mechanics simply because they've been the mainstay for longer, but there are crap examples of season passes too, for sure.
There we go. Solved it.
There we go. Problem solved. We'll never have to have this discussion again. All right. Well, on that, we'll move on to the next topic.
Mitch, what's Discord?
Discord is an online chat service that most gamers use. Incidentally, you can also use it to talk to us at pixelsiv.com.au/Discord.
Yeah, you can talk about episodes, you can talk about upcoming topics, you can probably even coerce Mitch into playing a game with you online.
That's not going to happen.
That is going to happen. You're doing it. I'm saying that's happening. Sorry.
Yeah, well...
Join Discord.
You should grow your beard back.
pixelsiv.com.au/Discord.
Oh, my God.
And take that, Mitch.
So tonight we're talking to Jay Armstrong from Massive Monster about their latest game, Never Give Up. I have a beautiful sticker on my Mac top from Never Give Up that I got from you nice guys at PAX last year. But for those who were not lucky enough to be there and to play the game, Jay, what is Never Give Up?
So Never Give Up is a super hard massive core platformer game. In which not only is it sort of very difficult to play, but the game also actively makes fun of you for being bad. One of the two kind of different things about this game is that each level starts out very simply, and when you complete it, a few more traps are added and it's extended slightly. So you have like an iterative level design. And what that means is that by the time you're on the last room, you're jumping off walls, doing incredible stunts, like avoiding all sorts of traps that were giving you trouble at the beginning and feeling like an absolute ninja. And then the other thing is, like, when you are struggling too much, we have a give up button at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen that flashes at you. And when you've had enough, you click that button and all the pain goes away. You move on to the next level. And you can continue your progress, but the game will make fun of you for doing so. So it's a game that's hard, but it also is about pushing your buttons. But it's very much so in like not a kind of like macho, like you're not good enough, get good kind of mentality. It's more very much like teasing you and kind of prodding your buttons, but in a funny way.
Can you describe? You just said a term there that I haven't heard anyone talk about before. Masocore. What is that?
I think it's masochistic and hardcore mashed together to create Masocore. I hadn't heard about it until I read reviews about Never Give Up, and I was like, oh, that's I guess that's what
us.
it is. But that's us. We'll use that. Thank you. Yeah. And it's games like N++, Super Meat Boy, more recently Celeste. Those games that are very, very difficult, but they kind of they offer a lot for speedrunners. They're challenging, and really, once you get into them, they're not as difficult as they appear to be. But you always get that kind of bragging rights with it.
So, where did the inspiration for this game come from? Like, why did you decide to take a platformer in such an interesting new direction?
So this game actually comes from a long lineage of Masocore games. It comes from a series of Flash games called Give Up. So there's Give Up and Give Up 2. And I think Give Up actually predates the original Super Meat Boy. So this goes way back. It's got the pedigree. And it was a series of games which were platformers where the room got harder and you could give up at any time. But this is the full retail build out of the game. Everything that we wanted it to be. We got voiced by Aaron Hampson of the Game Grumps, who's hilarious. 150 something rooms, traps, blood everywhere, loads of cutscenes, cinematics, a kind of full build out. And it's the game that the series and fans of that series has always deserved.
When we were talking last time, you were talking a lot about that legacy of the Flash games. This game is being, published in part by Armor Games, which is one of those sites that used to host it. So can you tell me how you kind of continue that legacy on and sort of build that up for a new audience?
Yeah, basically, so Massive Monster, we all started out as Flash game developers. That's how we learned to make games. So I don't think any of us would have been able to make anything without that platform. And it was a fantastic ecosystem that existed around it. You could make a game in a couple of months and you could go full time. And that's how I kind of fell into gaming. And over the years, we just got developed a great relationship with Armor Games, who are publishing this game. And Give Up is actually their IP. So it's actually their product, their game series. And we were working with them for Adventure Pals, which came out last year, and that's what we were talking about last time I was on the show, 50-something episodes ago. And so we were kind of working on this game. It was all going well, and they kind of said, hey, we really want to make this game. Would you guys be interested? And of course, we jumped at the chance because we love those games. We love Armor games. We love everything that those games kind of entailed. And we're just so proud to have this game out now that we can, share with the world.
If you're just tuning in, you might be watching on one of our live platforms. We're talking to Jay Armstrong from Massive Monster. It is a Masocore game.
A Masocore platformer.
Love with.
A Maso platformer.
Yeah. Never Give Up is the name of it. It's this sort of, is it the spiritual successor? Is it a sequel?
It's like maybe a reboot. I mean, it is a sequel, but we just didn't call it Give Up 3. We thought, give it a new name.
Yeah.
So did you talk to them before you started, jumping on with the successor?
Yeah, so the original creator, Tasselfoot, produced this game with us. So he
Fantastic.
developed the game alongside of us. So it is Massive Monster, but very much in tight partnership with Armor Games. Tasselfoot works with for Armor Games. And so it's very much a Massive Monster giving a big old high five to Armor Games and creating this.
Now, we did see the game at PAX Australia last year. We played it, and luckily there was no speakers that we could hear ourselves getting very politely reminded to do better.
Yes.
How does it sort of display, and when you're touring it around, and how do people pick it up when you have it at conventions?
Oh, it's so interesting. So we put it out there, and it doesn't attract everyone. It's definitely not a game for. There's a lot of blood. It's doing what it sets out to do, which isn't for everyone, but for certain people, it twigs something in them. So what we see is people come back day after day, and they're just like desperate to get that, the fastest time. So we often have competitions, who's got the fastest for the whole weekend, and we've given out trophies and things like that. It's a brilliantly competitive game, and people who have that in them, people who like speedrunning or just really want to perfect the time, have a perfectionist personality, really get into this. So if you are one of those people, please do check out the game. It just appeals to that. And we've put in a bunch of stuff to help as well. We've got like live splits. So as you're running through, you can kind of keep track of your splits. There's leaderboards. You can race your own ghost. So you can race your best time to try and improve as well. So it very much is that sort of game. And I mentioned the give up button. So although we call it a Masocore platformer, there's a lot of stuff that makes it easier as well as harder. So you can really set your own challenges. There are collectibles that you can ignore or you can get to unlock costumes, but they're usually in very difficult places. So as you're playing, you can actively kind of choose your difficulty, and you can have checkpoints on or off. And we kind of trying to appeal to all sorts of people. But really we see if you're into kind of speed running or watching other people die a lot and laughing at them, this is a game for you to check out.
Can you describe what you do to kind of make it sort of easier and harder for people? And do you kind of adjust that on the fly?
Yeah. Well, we are really inspired by obviously, Meat Boy and M++ and games like that. But also recently we saw Celeste, and they did a brilliant job of making a very hard game more accessible. So we wanted to do the same thing. So we have the give up button. So if you are really struggling, press the give up button, you move on to the next level. And that's kind of core to the whole game, and it always has been. And it's just a really interesting way. When you are like on that second last level and you just really had enough, you can just quit and carry on, and you can revisit it later. It puts a big red gave up stamp over the level, so you always remember that you've done it. It's a stain on your honor, but you can come back and do it when you're feeling a bit better. We also have things like you can toggle on infinite jumps. So there is a double jump, but you can toggle on infinite jumps, which just means that, again, you can set your own challenge. You can turn on checkpoints, which I need them because they really help a lot. And we also have collectibles and things like that in the level that will be in very difficult places to get to. So if you just want to get through the level and that's all you can manage, just forget them and carry on. But if you are looking for that extra challenge, you can do that. And the hardest thing about this game is we have a permadeath mode. So if you want a serious challenge,
most Masocore.
if you're the most Masocore, you can turn on permadeath, and one death throughout the whole game clears your save and you have to start again.
Oh,
And do you know, I put, yeah, right. So we kind of put that in as a bit of a joke, just kind of, laughing, like no one will ever do that. And 3 people have already done it, and the game came out last week. So it's amazing the sort of the skill level out there of people, and that's been really fun to watch as well. So it's super easy, it's super hard. You pick your own challenge.
How does it feel now to have this under your belt? We asked you how you felt after the Adventure Pals came out. You've now got the next game out in the world. People are passing it at the hardest difficulty possible. How does that feel?
Yeah, it feels pretty great, to be quite honest. It's been a long-term kind of dream to have console games out there and games that I've made and worked, and I've been able to work with some amazing people. And it just, it feels fantastic. And so anyone, like whenever I see a video of someone playing the game, or hear someone talking about it, or see an article, or people talking about it on social media, whatever, it keeps getting me kind of emotional. So I'm trying to hold it together, but it's just like, it's a wonderful thing. And to have 2 games on the Nintendo Switch within a couple of years, fantastic. And I'm just so excited for what Massive Monster is going to do next. And, I hope everyone keeps an eye out on us, because I think we have some big things planned.
Well, can you give us a hint?
I was about to say, yeah.
I'll tell you what, we will give you a hint at PAX Australia. I promise. I'll even show you something.
Mate, we will be
exclusive.
There. We're going to hold that. Okay. We're going to hold you to that in person.
Perfect. Do it.
You heard it here first. Remember that, Sifters.
It's out there. People can play it now. Where can people go if they want to find out more information, if they want to test out how much they want to punish themselves?
Yeah, so Never Give Up, it's on Steam, it's on and Nintendo Switch. So we've got PC, Mac, and Nintendo Switch. I should say it's not just Steam, it's also GOG and Humble and kind of anywhere else where you like to get your games. But just check out Never Give Up, or you can go to massivemonster.co, and we've got links to the game on all the different platforms. But yeah, I do encourage people to check it out. It's definitely something that you can, on the Switch, you can sort of play for a little while, put down for a bit and come back to, because the Switch has that like auto kind of restart, which is fantastic. So it's great to kind of play in little chunks as well, so you don't get too frustrated. But yeah, so have either massivemonster.co or just search for Never Give Up game, and it's on PC, Mac, and Nintendo Switch.
And
one
of course,
last thing before we
go,
sort of
Gianni,
wrap
please.
up, I want to know, are there any, like, I guess, myths or anything you wanted to bust about the making of this game? Anything that you think that people may have got the wrong end of the stick of?
Is there something that you might have heard that you're thinking of?
I'm curious. People on Reddit are very well balanced.
Blowing up.
Yeah.
Well balanced. But I'm just wondering, have people kind of misinterpreted what the game was about, or anything you saw that was interesting?
I think there's one thing that I would say, which is that first of all, it's 2 things. I think first of all, it's not a Flash game. It comes from the Flash game series, but it's from the ground up. It's built to be a full console and PC Mac release. It's tons of features, as I say, great voice acting by Ego Raptor, cutscenes, loads of levels, and it's a full-on game. Don't get confused. It's not a Flash game at all. And then the second thing is, it's not as hard as we kind of make it out to be if you don't want it to be. It can be. You can play permadeath, you can go for all the coins, but don't be intimidated by the game. If it's not your type of thing, check it out, maybe watch a few videos, and you might be surprised that it's actually quite manageable.
That's it. So you heard it here first. Go to massivemonster.co, and of course all the other social medias, Massive Monster or Never Give Up. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Pixel Sift. That is about all the time we have for today. Thank you very much, Jay, for telling us all a lot more about Never Give Up. This episode has been hosted by myself and Gianni. Thank you for joining me, Gianni.
Always a pleasure. And great to have you back on the show again, Jay. Let's not make it 50 episodes for the next one, hey?
Absolutely.
Let's make it sooner. Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you guys for having me back on. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem at all. Pixel Sift is produced by Scott Quigg, that's me, Sarah Ireland, Fiona Bartholomaeus Mitch Loh, and Gianni Di Giovanni, sorry mate, is our executive producer.
Right here.
Right here, buddy. We wouldn't have been able to make these 129 episodes of Pixel Sift if we didn't have the support of Murdoch University. Go and check them out and tell them we sent you. If you can, to learn more about a great creative degree, head to murdoch.edu.au/arts. Gianni.
As always, we're going to stick links to the topics that we talked about in this show. If you want to read up a bit more about what was going on, that website is www.pixelsift.com.au. You can come join us on Discord. We'd love to have you there. You can say hello to Jay, who's there at the moment as well. That's pixelsift.com.au/Discord. If you've got any questions about some of the developers who may have been on the show, lots of them are still there for you to chat to. You can just chat to them there. pixelsift.com.au.
Great community.
If you like what we do, tell a friend, because we don't pay to advertise and we rely on word of mouth for people to find the show.
That's right. So if you're a budding developer or anything, get on that Discord. It's a great source of information and whatnot for you, and it's just a good place to be. On our next episode which will be on the 5th of September. You can of course join us next week for Pixel Sift Plays, where we play some of the indie games that feature on our show. That's about all for this week. Thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.
See you later.
See ya.
Thanks.